All right, so Kate Varness is our guest today, and the topic is Make Space for Abundance, a three-step process for creating what you desire. And Kate, with all her titles and credentials, guides heart-centered, ambitious women who are tired of getting in their own way to design a life aligned with their divine purpose. After 16 years of helping clients organize and make decisions in their homes, we'll ask her about that, Kate's coaching has shifted to whole life alignment that blends intuition and action. Kate's a frequent speaker and author of Who Am I Now? Realign Your Home and Life. She has been featured on thekitchen.com, local television and newspapers, Family Fun, and Family Circle. Based in Peoria, Illinois, she's the mother of 3 teens and 2 sweet dogs. And courtesy of Zoom, we're happy to have her with us today. Welcome, Kate. I'm so happy you're here today.
I am delighted to be here, everyone, on this Monday morning. I just want to let you know that I don't plan to just yakety yak at you. I would like some participation. And so if you have a paper and pen handy, you'll need that in just a few minutes, as well as either using the chat for responses, because I'll be asking for your feedback on things, or we can open it up to saying what your responses are as I go through those. So just a heads up on that. And we are going to get started here. Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about my credentials, the CPO-CD is Certified Professional Organizer specializing in chronic disorganization. So this is where you laugh, yes, because people usually who have experienced chronic disorganization ongoing, they know what that means, that frustration. So the COC is Certified Organizer Coach, and that is an ACC level coaching credential. And then I have a master's in English because, why not have a variety? But actually that's come in handy as I've created, books and done writing and things. So, and I'm a teacher at heart. So you'll hopefully see the evidence of that as we move through here today. So we know this, right? Every moment I create my experience. It's such an amazing sentiment. I tend to think of vistas like this, not to mention that I might, if I were actually in this place, be a little bit scared that I was going to go off the edge of that cliff if I tried to do the yoga move and lose my balance. But the idea is serenity, beauty. This is the experience that many of us aim for. So in this visualization, and you imagine your experience, it's kind of easy to engage, right? Well, how about this one? Is this the same feeling? No, it's not, right? So, but this is the reality, yes? So we've got an imagined reality that may or may not be correct. We have a reality that may or may not be resonating with you. But the idea is that no matter what's coming into our field, we are still creating our experience. So what's the experience that you're having? And here's where I would love to have your feedback. When you look at the picture on the left or the right, what are some things that come to mind about your experience? And if it's easier just to unmute, you can go ahead and do that, Jackie.
Typing away. And I'm like, I'm somewhere in the middle because I just took my drawer that looked like that and matched all the lids with all the containers and cleaned it out this weekend.
What a good feeling, right? Yeah, you said you were on the chair of organizing. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, Kate, I would say my reality is both. And fortunately, I have a husband who would take that drawer and do something nice with it, where I would just leave it, and I'd leave it open too.
That's great.
So yeah, I relate to both.
Got it. Fantastic.
I think it's, what I have found, yes, I have a drawer like that, but it doesn't bother me. And I have a corner of my desk that looks like that and doesn't bother me. But the rest of the house bothers me. I mean, so I just do it. If I use something, I put it away. If I take a blanket and use it, I fold it up. I just find that rather than having to do it all at once because it looks like a tornado went through, I just do it. Everything has its place. And so I would say I'm 85% always, on the left.
Right, so we've got some words associated here that came in through the chat. Being alive, on the left, peace, serenity, breathing in fresh air. And then on the right, chaos, clutter, stress, no direction, no sleep. So we are all just recognizing, yes, we do have an experience, a reaction that happens in us depending on our environment. And it's important to have that awareness that, yes, this is indeed, it's not just so enmeshed up that we don't have control over it, although it does sort of feel like sometimes that we don't. But the idea is that in our desires that we have, we're always moving towards something or we're moving away from something. And that might be a helpful way to think about as you are defining your experience and what you want to create more of in your life and what you want to experience less of. So here's our exercise, the choose your experience exercise. The first thing I would like you to do, we're just going to spend 30 seconds. So this is going to be like a little laser brainstorm. So grab your pen or pencil and paper and write down the things that you do not want. Make a really quick list of what is it that you do not want in your life. Just a couple more seconds. Okay, so there we go. There's a list. Now we're going to make another list, which is what do you want? So make a list of what you wish you had, not you wish you had, but what you want to invite in your life. What do you want? Just a couple more seconds on that. And stop. Okay. So I know this is a quick exercise, but I would love to know, what was this experience like for you? Was it one easier to do than the other? Yeah. Which one was easier, Robin?
If you want,
Unmuting, yeah.
yeah, unmute yourselves if you'd like to talk, please.
So it was much easier for you to say what I wanted in my life. It was very difficult to say what I didn't want.
Okay. And same for Jackie. She's put a thumbs up. Anyone else? Thumbs up on the what you want was easier. How about
It-
thumbs up if what you do not want was
It was
easy?
pretty easy for me to come up with both.
Okay. So you could access both of them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyone else have a different experience?
Well, they're a yin and a yang, you know. I mean, it's pretty easy to, I thought, you know, you come up with one side and then you come up with the opposite. You know?
There we go. Okay.
That's what I thought, is that once had no trouble at all putting down what I did not want. And then when I look at my list of what I do want, it is just the opposite.
Oh, that's interesting. Mine are not direct opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Mine
certainly.
are mainly
With one
emotional.
exception, mine aren't direct opposites either. So
Well, not direct, but I think falling within the same category. You know, I guess for me, it was maybe what I don't, here's what it really is. It's what I don't want, and it's kind of the solution.
Mhm.
You
I
know?
have a question for you, Kate, because mine are mostly emotional state.
Mm.
Yeah, it can be. It doesn't have to be material things. It can be what you want to experience emotionally, definitely. And I think it's really interesting how the different processes that you use, because you certainly can use the contrast of the bad experience and the good experience as a way to learn more about things, or they can exist separately. Or the fact that Nicole was more in that emotional state, you know, is just providing information about what's important to her, or what she needs most right now, right? Okay, so if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And I've got a video I want to show you. And I'm going to hop into it in a different way. So, one sec. Get to it. And trying to avoid the ad. Okay, here we go.
Oh, I love this.
I think you forgot to share sound.
Oh, you can't hear the sound?
No.
When you share screen, there's a button you have to click, a little box. So if you unshare and start again,
Okay.
it's down on the bottom left when you get to the share screen.
Okay.
So you just stop sharing. Now, when you start sharing again, just start sharing, then look to a little check box on the bottom left.
Thank you.
You're
Oh, I
welcome.
learned something new today. I love that.
And
Okay.
Jackie is our Zoom maven.
I love it. Thank you, Jackie. Okay, here we go.
The first experiment for the cymatics music video is called a Chladni plate. A Chladni plate's basically a metal plate attached to the top of a speaker. There's sand on top of the plate, and you play different tones through the speaker. The plate vibrates, which forms different shapes depending on the frequency of the sound.
Well, we blew up a lot of speakers with the Chladni plate. So there was a lot of experimenting around the Chladni plate, primarily looking at how much volume we can put through there, how much sand to actually put on the plate, and the different shapes of plates and what different patterns would be created because of those shapes. But what we were really testing was what frequencies create the most interesting repeatable patterns, because that was a key point. So we ended up playing pretty much every audio frequency through the plate to see what different shapes it would form.
And for most frequencies, it doesn't really do much, but when it hits a frequency that resonates with the plate, it forms a really nice pure shape. So we found out what those tones were, and those were the tones we used to drive the plate during the video.
Isn't that cool?
I love that.
Oh my
Love it.
gosh. I mean, if you don't already get it, it's like the frequency, right? And what are we matching our frequencies with? I came across this and I was so intrigued. So this cymatics is this thing that you can explore if you want. But in terms of what we just did, you know, you are seeing what frequencies you're able to tune in to fairly easily or not, and what your processes are with that. And so I would venture to say that you all have a bit more of insight and tuning into this kind of thing than the average person might, since you were able to really access both of those, or more tuned into the what you do want. So let's dig into this a little bit more, because it isn't just a matter of awareness, right? Awareness that there's something that you desire or something that you want to move away from. It's about actions, and the actions are what change behavior. So as you go from the one drawer to the next, or for creating the possibility of being in this state of mind, you know, the beautiful yoga state of mind, or actually in that physical place, then that's going to require some behaviors. And the actions create decisions. And in the decisions, it's about releasing and allowing. And that's when more things come up for you. For example, with this drawer, as you're deciding what to get rid of, how many little yogurt containers do you really need to save in case you're sending something home with somebody? You're asking the question, what if I need it later, right? If you're wondering if you can align with this beautiful thing, do I deserve good things? Can it really be easy? And so the releasing and allowing phase comes as you make decisions and take actions. So the 3-step process that I want to offer today takes it a little deeper look into this frequency thing, but really it does simplify down to what frequency are you tuned into that you are then having more of. But we're going to dig in a little bit more, because for some people, it's, especially at the beginning, it's hard to figure out that frequency. And even in the video, what you saw was their level of experimentation. How much sand, what created the best shapes, what was the best level. So there is this tuning in to more precision that happens. So the 3-step process I'm offering is the idea that you first need to wake up from numbness. Then you release on those multiple levels, from the surface to the higher consciousness level. And the 3rd step being appreciating now. So let's go through these individually. So what are the frequencies of numbness? The first one I wanted to mention is this idea of the fantasy about circumstances that are from inside you or outside you, that things will be different when fill in the blank. I'll organize my photos when I retire. I've heard that a number of times, and what happens is the person retires and they still haven't done it. Right. So there can be kind of a numbness that happens when we assume that it's somewhere distant in the future. But a more common idea about numbness is this fear of pain or the anticipation of pain, that I can't handle it. And the truth is that may be true if you don't have the support or the skills prepared for that process. Of course, you all know this as coaches, you're guiding people through this every day. So what are the things to think about when you're waking up from numbness? Is it safe, right? This is a very basic question. And one way to overcome that frequency of fear about is it safe, is to begin to identify the people, the real life concrete people and resources that you have in order to support you through the process. And I find that when someone is entering new territory and it's a big deal for them to move into it, they really need is a witness. They need someone along on that process. Am I fed up enough to want something different? There's a tipping point, right? For many people, you know, who would have chosen what's happened to us in 2020, the kind of disruption that we've encountered? We would not have necessarily chosen that, but as we're all experiencing it in different ways and repeatedly, and then the offshoots of that, the disruption is forcing us to confront things perhaps that we haven't really wanted to confront, or it's allowed us to do things that we haven't otherwise been able to do. But when you understand that the discomfort is what's motivating the new behavior, it puts it in a different perspective, doesn't it? The other question is, can I be open to be curious about this experience that I'm having? And as you're practicing awareness, the self-compassion, and the curiosity, it's really a different lens, being curious about what more is there to know here. So the old way of looking at the triggers, is it safe? For many people, that question, or even the question of, what if I need this? That question comes up, and it's a trigger for them that they should stop and not lean into it. And so thinking about where are the triggers coming up, and how might you interpret that in a different way? The same is true with this idea that you're feeling just uncomfortable. When that uncomfortableness is motivating the change, when you look at that drawer that's filled with the butter tubs and all the containers that you've saved, the discomfort from that is motivating you to actually have what you desire, and when it's strong enough. So as you wake up, what you discover is that there are things that need to be cleared, or maybe you find that things are in a pretty good shape. So this is where you see what needs to be released and let go of, so that you can make space for a different kind of better feeling experience. So what are the frequencies of release? I would venture to say that trust and flow are two of the frequencies when we're really surrendering to the process, which of course takes a whole set of skills and things behind it. But the one that I want to highlight right now is to trust your intuition. I've got a picture of a cat here. I do not have any cats in my household, only dogs, but I have friends with cats, and if you yourself have them, you can correct me or confirm. Cats really don't give a shit, right? I mean, they're going to do what they want. I have a friend, if her cat wants to eat at 5 a.m. and the door is closed, she's going to scratch the door until she gets what she needs. If she wants to sleep on my friend's head, then that's what she's going to do. If she doesn't want to cuddle with guests, she's not going to do that. And so the idea that we've got these instincts within us and intuitions that are guiding us, and yet we've covered them up with all sorts of conditioning and not listening to them. So it's getting back in touch with that inner cat. Rawr. Creating what you desire means doing new behaviors, and that means making decisions. So when you get to that point of doing the new behavior, you can feel a lot like this, I think this is a Norman Rockwell. That's what it looks like to me, at least. You know, do I really want to jump off this high dive board or not? Can I do this? So there's lots of things that are coming up as you're going through that process. And I've found the best little plaques in clients' homes, plaques about clutter and etc. But this one was really fun. It says, indecision may or may not be my problem. So indecision has a frequency as well, right? You can stay up at that board for a long time until—
I identify with that. I just want you to know that.
Right. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah. So, what if, because when you get to this point, you're like, oh, I don't want to make the right decision or the wrong decision. That itself is a frequency. And when people are downsizing, for example, what I've noticed is that they're very afraid of making the wrong decision. And so when they make a decision from that place of fear, it's a very different decision than the one that's like, here's where I'm heading, and I can recover whether I make a mistake or not. But what if you could release that pressure of making an error? What if it was okay for you to have the full human experience? That even when these things, even when you're, as Leslie said about people this weekend, even when you're experiencing this really awful kind of vibe in your life, angry vibe, that is not something you're trying to push away or resist. That it's actually, okay, what's this telling me? Like, maybe I am really angry. Maybe something needs to be created in my life right now that until now I haven't had enough of an urge to go over the tipping point. So it's really about seeing that all things are there for you, just like someone said earlier about the two sides, the don't want and the do want. It's the yin and the yang, right? All of it is for us if we choose that experience. So when you release, you're releasing on multiple levels, right? This is an example of what I would call beauty drawer. I know it sounds like, very third grade language, but this was my toiletry drawer, I guess, in my bathroom. And in the before picture, it's just a big mess. And I want you to think, like, as you're getting ready in the morning each day, you're creating this experience for yourself of stress, of having to find things, all of that, versus making decisions about things that it's time to let go of, right? Maybe the expensive face cream that you purchased that made you break out, but you still keep it because you haven't got your money's worth out of it, Like, some of these decisions just don't make any rational sense, but it is about diving in and making those decisions and knowing that you'll be okay, because the result is, by releasing those things, you actually make space for your ease in the morning. The same can be true of your closet. If your closet has a mix of clothing, if you've got what I call wish clothing in there, like I wish I fit into it, then you can't trust your closet. So every day you're undermining your own sense of well-being for the sake of not making these decisions to release, to know that you're going to be okay regardless. I have this fun little flow chart that I came across, and I want to read through it. It says, should I throw that thing out? So do you have too much stuff? Yes or no? Do you need that thing? But do you use it in the last 6 months? Are you lying? Does it have sentimental value? Does it take up a lot of space? Does it still smell the way it's supposed to? Do you have another one or something similar? So this is just an example of, one flow chart. And certainly there's no judgment on my part about what you keep or not. It doesn't matter to me what your space looks like as long as it's serving you. But just to know that your choices, even on this very surface level of your environment, is actually affecting your sense of abundance on other levels. So here's an example of an office that I worked with a client on. It actually wasn't her central office, but it was a space where she really dumped a lot of things, and they didn't have a home. I mean, which place would you rather work in, right? I mean, it's most people would prefer to walk into the space that is not making so much noise, because stuff makes noise. But we can also have stuff in our head that makes noise, the beliefs and the conditioning and the unchallenged frequencies that we have to deserve what we have, or that it has to be hard. And so Yes, if the clean one seems too sterile, this is the beauty of the continuum. You get to have the space that fits what feels good for you. For some people, having that empty space, it's just too fast. The energy is too fast for them. So you get to decide what it feels like. No, my youngest child, she has some ADHD tendencies. And when she was little, she would play, she would get dressed up, and then she'd take it off, or she'd play with something and then she'd drop it and go to the next thing. It wasn't that she was being bad, it just wasn't on her radar to like clean up. So things would get kind of messy, and then we would work through it and we get it nice and tidy again. And she said to me one time, I don't know, she was maybe 7. She's like, I can't fall asleep. And I said, oh, okay, because the room was clean. The room felt different because the energies around us do affect us. So what I did is I took her rolling chair and I put it in the center of the room with a nice soft blanket on it so that it kind of absorbed some of that open air. So just to know, like, really what feels right for you is what feels right. Yeah, bouncing energy. So it's the things, to be attuned to the things that feel heavy, that feel hard, that feel like they're not supporting you. So when you're opening up your space for ease and abundance of ease, you're working at a different level. You're saying to the universe that you're open to receive. Have space to receive. If you just take your hands and close your hands right now, take your fists, just make some fists. When your hands are closed like this, if I were to offer you something, you wouldn't be able to accept it. So if there's something you're really looking to bring into your life right now open them up. Just feel the release of the pressure, the energy of the space that's there that can now receive the things that you desire, as well as the beautiful things that are even beyond what you imagine for yourself. And that's the wonderful thing about trusting the universe, trusting that there is some flow that you are part of that is allowing things to come in. Takes a lot of pressure off too. So there's this book I really love. It's called It's Not Your Money. It's by Tasha Silver. And she has what she calls an abundance prayer. And so if being open to receive is something that you could use some expansion on, I would suggest that you go check that out, or you look up the abundance prayer. But part of what is in that prayer is let everything that needs to go, go. Let everything that needs to come, come. So you're not having to control it. It's not on your shoulders. And ironically, that's the thing. We try to control, we try to predict our situation, and in a way it keeps us numb. So what's the frequency of appreciation? This is that third step. It's anything that's physical, metaphysical senses, right? Sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. You think about the kitchen sink and the water that's coming through. Like it's freaking amazing that we have water that comes into our house directly. And not only is it cold, but it's hot. And all we have to do is like open the faucet. And the water that we drink has minerals and nourishment for our bodies. And it's working for us, whether we are thinking about it or not. Like it's just there. It's there. It's like so amazing. So when we're in this vibration of like, I gotta get this done, I gotta get over this feeling, I've got to accomplish this or get more clients or all of that, that frequency is not the frequency of appreciation. But the appreciation is always within our reach, even as easily as finding your breath in your body and being grateful for that the rise and the fall of your chest and the ease of breath, because not everyone is experiencing that. It's a good way to tell is if you're in your brain, if you're in your intellect, you're trying to think through it versus in the body of experiencing it. So think about how you might get into your body. What is when you're feeling in a not good place, what is something that can help you get into your body? For me, it's nature. What would it be for you all? What are your go-to things to help you step into appreciation?
Nature too.
Mine is always, I need to go take a walk.
Mm-hmm. So physical movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else? Journaling, music, that's a good one. Yes, dogs. Dogs are great. I love my dogs. Dancing. Going outside. Singing. Talk about like vibration, right? You're literally opening up your throat chakra. Yeah, music and dance. And so it's right there within our reach that we can at any moment change that frequency for a different result. The experience of abundance does not depend on the past or the future. It depends upon appreciating some part of the now moment. So the people who are waiting for life to return to normal, for COVID to not be frustrating more, for the political situation to settle down, for this, for that, to have more money. You know, they may arrive at that point thinking it's going to give them that sense of abundance, but if they can't find it in this very moment, then they're not going to know that it's there in that moment. So whether the ground is in drought or whether it's fertile, it's always possible to experience wonder, amazement, appreciation. And in order to do that, you do need to wake up from that numbness and release what needs to go so that you can allow what needs to come in. Because what you appreciate appreciates. And I would invite you to think in terms of appreciation rather than wanting, which has a sense of like, please, sir, may I have more porridge? The wanting is what we don't have, but appreciation is what we do have. And it does grow. So that's what I've got for you today. I'd love to hear your questions, connect with you. I'll put if you want to chat, we can, I'll put this link in the chat box. What questions do you all have? Or observations? Go ahead and unmute and share.
I have a share actually, and it completely resonates with what you were describing before. And I think it's really fascinating that I've observed this behavior. So my youngest dog that you've seen here in the screen, she's been in my house. She has been not wanting to come down into my basement. And like I literally had to put a leash on to teach her to come down to the basement. And so she was acting like she was scared and with anxiety or whatever. But I could go to my mother's house, my neighbor's house. They all had stairs similar to mine with carpets, and she'd go up and down everybody else's stairs into their basement, no problem. So I was like, what's going on? It's not a basement thing. It's not a stair thing. It's not a lighting thing. But as you know, I've recently taken care of my office. So that was the first room I face when I come downstairs and I have to pass to go to my laundry room, has been my office. And my office was a dump zone, and it was full of stuff that was reminding me of past challenges that were things I didn't want to have to revisit even mentally to deal with decluttering it. Mm-hmm. And I know every time I walked past the office myself, I was like, it's not a space I didn't want to see at all, like that avoidance. But I have recently reclaimed my office, and ever since I reclaimed my office, boom, she's downstairs, she's happy, she's playful in here. It's like it had nothing, like it was all me. And she just read my energy. And once I was happy to be passing here, she's like, I come downstairs. It's almost hard for me to keep her upstairs now. She just runs downstairs. So yeah, it's really neat to see that yeah, it is definitely what you said about having stuff makes noise or has frequency. It sure does. Mm-hmm. So, feels good to reclaim my office. I mean, I still have some clutter. Getting there. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Nicole.
I have two things. We moved into the house that we're in March, and this house is very much smaller than the house we were in. And we hadn't totally downsized from moving from New York 6 years ago. So we had a lot of stuff to deal with. And even so, this house, it's a nice house, but it still feels cramped. And the desk that I was working at, we have filing cabinets with a nice finished board on top of them for desks. And the board, I chose a smaller board because the house feels so cramped. And I've been working on that. And Margie has been urging me to use a different board that was in the way in the garage, which is a much bigger one. And I just dreaded taking the stuff off the desk and reorganizing it, changing the board. And finally last night I did it. And it's a considerably bigger board. And in the process, I happily decluttered the entire top of the desk, got rid of tons of little pieces of paper. I'm one of those that writes on scraps of paper and keeps them in a stack and goes through them. So the desk is completely clean, and working at it last night, I was so surprised at how expansive and happy I felt. And directly my mind felt clearer. And of course I did the usual thing of, why did I wait so long? Why did I put up with enduring, like you said at the beginning? So that was directly related to what you're saying. But I have a question for you. You and I had a conversation briefly once about people who organize what I would call visually. Mm-hmm. Like I need to know that things have a place. Mm-hmm. And it needs to make sense to me, and I'm better off if I can sort of see them. So like if I open a closet, I'm better off if everything isn't in drawers where I can't see them. It can be conscious. What is that in terms of letting go or keeping? Is that just a different perception system? In other words, the drawer that you showed with all the containers in it, mm-hmm. If those were all my electronics cable, because I'm a geek, it wouldn't bother me because I would open that drawer and I would know what cable I needed in a heartbeat. But those lids I could see could be better organized. So my mind looks at that drawer and says, oh, that's the place where those things belong. And then depending on the object, would it need to be really consciously organized, or does it not matter to me?
I think if you can find what you need really quickly, like you don't need to fix something that's not broken. I mean, the standard for this isn't a magazine spread. It's, what makes it easy for you to find, or, if you've got someone else who needs to use that same thing and you don't want them to depend upon you to find it, then that's where you want to have that shared system that's clear for all involved. So it really kind of depends. Like if that drawer doesn't bother you, there's no reason why you have to change it. On the other hand, you could make up a map of the system that, where you've split it up You could even use just like little plastic red Solo cup kind of things
Mhm.
and have these are things for headphones. These are things for this.
Yeah.
These are things for that. I've seen people do that with like toilet rolls, empty toilet rolls,
Uh-huh.
like to store
Table it, right.
electronics, cables in there. I've use little snack size bags for that. But for me, the need is to have it be labeled and have it be
Uh-huh.
contained away because I can't remember. I can't
Yeah.
remember what goes with what. But if you've got that integration, then there's no reason why you need to create an extra step.
I used to use plastic ice trays for a lot of costume jewelry, necklaces and rings and earrings. Just put them out in a tray in the drawer. So you open it up and you just see what you have.
I have used little command hooks in my closet. I've got a small dresser where I have jewelry and stuff, but I put the command hooks up on the wall in a kind of a display, and then I hang my favorite necklaces from there. So it's kind of like art and organization combined.
I think Deb Mazzaferro talked about something like that a year or so ago, hanging things on the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, just jumping on what Leslie's saying, something related to that. What came up to me, Kate, and I am curious about, you know, how you might interpret this. It's more about what my priorities are. So when you showed me the first drawer, I don't give a shit about plastic cartons, right? But when it comes to my cosmetic drawer, that's more of a priority, and I want things to be neat and tidy for efficiency and attractiveness and what I value. And there are other things like that. Same with books. I mean, it might look a little bit messy behind me, but I like to have things categorized and organized when it comes to things that I value. So how might you, build on that when you're working with people?
Yeah, there's a new show on Netflix called The Home Edit, and they organize everything by rainbow color. And so I've seen people get really excited about organizing their books by color. And as a book lover myself, I can't imagine that because I have my books by category and then like chronological in some cases. And so, what's for some is not for others. So the most important thing to pay attention to is when you open that cosmetic drawer and it's neat and tidy, does that bring you joy? Does it make your getting ready every morning, like this is something you're doing every day or frequently, does it give you ease? And so yeah, that's the priority. That would be the thing that you would want to get in order first. However, if you feel frustrated, that's the signal. If you're like, I don't want to, like, for example, utensils, cooking utensils are big and bulky. Often they're hard to do. We may have gone to home parties and bought some kind of like specific use chopper to support our friend. And yet we don't use it. And so then it ends up that these things that can get over full, we just don't want to, we maybe don't want to cook because this is too full. We maybe get frustrated by cleanup. So there might be more subtle things going on. Just notice as you move through your day what your frustration points are, and know that that's all choice. The choice is just to say, does this fit my life now? And if it doesn't, the easiest thing is to release it. Because the fewer things we have, the easier it is to take care of. But this all individual preference. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
So when I was, when I had a 2,800 square foot house and I was building an office, the office to die for, and I built all these built-ins, I built in file cabinets because everything was paper. This was 1980 or 96 or 7 or something. We all barely were getting into computers. So when I left that space, I just dumped tons and tons and tons of paper. So fast forward to today, and I'm at the dentist, and she says, I want to verify all your information because we're going completely paperless. And I'm like, okay, great. So we went all through the stuff. And then when I was exiting, she said, and I'm now on Medicare. Oh my God. She liked my Medicare provider. So she said, I'll file. They're pretty good. I'll file for the rebate. You don't have to do it. I'm like, okay, cool. And she looks at me and she goes, so do you want me to print you a receipt? And I said, well, since you're going paperless, why don't you just email it to me? And she looked at me like I had two heads. She hadn't thought about that yet. You know, I was the first person to say, you know, so I said, just save it as a PDF and then email me that. I'm like, fine, just print it. So, you know, but I'm like, I don't know what do I need a printed copy for? You're filing it.
Right.
I'm not filing it. Anyway, just funny how I think it illustrates your point about what's important to you. What have you thought through? And then the, oh my gosh moment, like, oh, there's still that piece. Do I need to do something with that piece, or do I have peace with it?
Excellent. And look at how you expanded her horizons on what they can do. I actually think that there are it seems like there's plenty of programs out there that companies can use to just automatically send it. I mean, I get that at different places. They'll say, do you want it printed or emailed or both? And it's a good way.
I'm sure that, you know, I mean, she's usually in some dental, you know, billing and client software. It just hadn't occurred to her to figure that piece out yet. You know. Yeah,
it's a paradigm shift for sure. But one thing I want to mention too, that you bring that up, I don't know about you, but I'm like, I need to write things out by hand. When I connect pen and paper, there's something important that happens in my processing. And, you know, maybe this isn't the case for my 15-year-old, but what I've taken to do, if you're someone who does that as well, I keep one notebook. And I write the date on top. I write my notes for that. It keeps it in one place as opposed to all the little notes, like Leslie was talking about. And then I take that and I put it into a further distillation of information after a certain period of kind of sitting. So it's
I do that as well, and I do it not only with binders, you know, like that, right? But I also do it with legal tablets. And then I often have a legal tablet for each subject. So so if I'm working on my personal marketing, then there's a tablet for that. If I'm working on leads, that's a tablet for that. If I'm working with it used to be when I worked with specific clients, there was a tablet for that, but now I just take the notes in that loose leaf, and then I put the important notes in my, you know, my CRM. So I have it right there. But yeah, I agree with you that it's easier to jot things down while you're doing it. I mean, today, right?
Yeah. And I think that it's always good to pay attention to, are there any steps that I can remove to make this process easier? So instead of like, how can I make this perfect? The question is, how lazy can I be? Which is a very odd perspective for those of us who are go-getters and achievers, right?
Well, or lazy or efficient.
Yeah, it's efficient. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
So
you.
I have a question for you. I know that actually two things. First, I wonder what your take on the Marie Kondo fad. I mean, she's very popular now. I understand the principles of what she talks about, and when I hear her talking about it, it feels almost too strict in some way to me. So, you know, how do you deal with that? And then I have another question afterwards.
So I know that there are some professional organizers who were very upset about Marie Kondo because they've been saying the same things for years. And frankly, I really don't care, because if she's helping people to have homes that they love, then that's the most important thing. And really what her different take on it, I think that felt very fresh for people, is this idea of if it doesn't spark joy.
Mhm.
Essentially, that question is, I'm tuning into my intuition. Does this spark joy? And if the answer is silence, then that's conditioning, right? Then that means it's something else going on. And the quickest way is to just only keep things that spark joy or that are useful, right? Some people said, oh, toilet paper doesn't spark joy, but but it does spark joy if the alternative is a corn cob, right? So I think that she's really helped people to tune into their intuition in decision making, and she's got such wonderful energy. She's so pleasant, and the thing that I would say is maybe a little trickier is that people with chronic disorganization who have, say, ADHD, who have physical limitations, or maybe some other mental health conditions, that it's not so simple. It's not so simple as some of the things that she's put forward. And she wrote those books before she had children, although she did say that her children do fold the clothes. For me, I'm not so concerned about whether my socks can rest and how I fold them. I'm just happy to get them together.
Yeah.
So it's all about what works for you. But the main thing is to tune into your intuition and trust it.
Thank you.
Also, I want to say,
share one. Go ahead, Margie.
Marie Kondo, of course, is Japanese, and I've spent a very long time in Japan, and I speak Japanese, and a lot of what she does is very cultural specific. The way things are organized in a Japanese home, you almost have to be obsessively, you have to prune things, you have to put things away. And the laws before what we call modern times they had anti-sumptuous laws. So you could have a flashy under kimono that was bright red, but on the surface you needed to have dull colored kimonos because you were actually fined if you wore flashy ones. So it's very cultural specific. And I don't know about you guys, but I like Marie Kondo's ideas in some sense, but when I looked at her own home, I thought, oh, yuck. And of course, taste is simply taste. And what I like, someone else might go, that I don't like that at all. It's all subjective, but still I was shocked at how sterile her own home seemed. That really, or her own apartment, it really surprised me.
So I edited a book that's used as a professional organizer textbook, and it actually they're called life organizers in Japan. So it was translated into Japanese. So there's a whole organization, actually, in all countries have professional organizers. And believe it or not, but hoarding is not only found in the US. Hoarding disorder is something that you see all around the world, including in Japan. That's interesting to hear the anti-sumptuous laws. It's fascinating to think about. Yeah, universal hoarding. Right. So I think the Shinto, Margie, would it be the Shinto religion believing that there's energy in all things? And so by folding your socks a certain way, you are honoring their resting.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, you could call it Shinto, but really I think all cultures had that sort of, in my opinion, animistic, that everything has life, everything has energy, which I believe is really true. And in fact, my hang up is really trying to, I can clutter and then clean, but one of my biggest issues is, and I don't know how true this is for other people, is I hate to just throw out usable things. And that's been a real problem. And I really dislike our culture's tendency to, you know, I hate those plastic toothpicks. It's like, ew. But, you know, that tendency to conserve.
Right. And that could be taken to, it can, the kind of responsibility, over responsibility. It's called scrupulosity with recycling, you can even have. And so it becomes, it just becomes something that you've got to keep in balance. The need to move it onto something. And that's something I talk about in my book, is this idea of identity and stuff, and how, what are the agreements that we're making? What is the value that something has? Do we have to keep it forever for it to have value? Can we be grateful for its service to us and then have it move on to someone else without knowing who that someone else is? Because some people say, well, my stuff's too good to donate to just a general donation center. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but, you know, not every item can be treated with that full, let's figure this out. But, you know, I think Goodwill will take like a certain level of clothing that has holes and stains and things, and it's considered rag class.
They take single shoes. They have someone who takes single shoes. They recycle everything here in the local Goodwill, but not all Goodwills are the same. So
actually, my experience with Goodwill is not like that. They're very picky because everybody's getting rid of stuff.
It's been a big influx for sure. Yeah.
I found an organizer a number of years ago gave me a tip that I found really helpful about things that have sentimental value. And I'm big for sentiment. So like a lot of my mother's little statues or her artwork or stuff after she passed away are very good things that were in my childhood home that I have a strong emotional attachment to, but no use for in the present. And he said, take really good photograph of it. Mm. And so I have digital archives of photos of things. And once in a blue moon, I'll remember something and I'll look at it. And I get the same feeling as if I had the object there, and it's very sweet, but I gave the object away a long time ago. So it's somewhere in the middle of remembering the energy of it, but not needing the specific object. The thing that I have found hard is when in the moving and in the cleaning and all that, furniture that's really fine furniture that nobody wants. You can't give it to kids. The donation centers won't take it. And it's really good stuff from our parents. And what do you do? Put it on the curb and let the trash man take it? It's so hard.
Yeah.
You just do that? You just put it on the curb?
You know, I in my area, you can donate. I mean, they will take furniture. They still are selling it. It's not like it's too full, but there's FreeCycle is something. FreeCycle.org is I think a nationwide organization where you can list stuff for free, or even put it on Facebook Marketplace and say that it's free or for a low cost. But it's almost like I read somewhere that the value of furniture is not what you paid for. It's not how well it's made. It's not the use that you've had from it, memories, but it's how much someone is willing to pay. So a $400 dresser might sell for $40. It's almost like you can take a zero off the end of the original price. And that's a very hard pill to swallow. But then people will hold off and taking action. Meanwhile, their home is stuck in this sort of stagnant energy because of having difficulty accepting that something was different than that. And so I think it's always useful to bring up that into the conscious level and say, I'm really disappointed that this is the case. You know, in my parents' generation or the generation before them, things were hard to come by. things were scarce, things were well made, and now it's a different environment. And so kind of negotiating it at a surface level as opposed to this underlying anger, dissatisfaction, even writing things out, talking it out, depending if you're a verbal processor. These are some good things to have to renegotiate our agreements, whether we realize we have them or not. Like, am I a bad granddaughter if I don't keep this third buffet that I've inherited? You know, so it's important to talk through and recognize on a conscious level some of those things going on below the surface.
Kate, this has been really wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And you really inspired me to go to my garage. And because every time I have to get in my car, but I'm going through this garage that has stuff in it. And I didn't ever understand why sometimes by the time I get into the car, having gone through my garage, well, I'm like this. And now I know. I gotta get to that, get into action and get into that.
Yes. Yeah. Is this for me now? Just like clear out that space and enjoy it. Be so appreciative of the fact that the ease that you can open your car door with, right? Because every time you drive into that space, you're reminded of this unfinished business. And so you can create the finished business. One piece at a time. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, this has been really wonderful. I want to acknowledge that we didn't do a go around because today's group, we all know each other. So, except for Nicole, who is in the mastery program with Margie and me. Do you want to just introduce yourself briefly? And then we'll do another thank you to Kate. This was really, really a wonderful presentation. Thank you. You made me think a lot, which is great. And you kind of inspired me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Sure, my pleasure. Nicole, would you just like to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, hi all. So my name is Nicole Grace Valenti. I live in Athens, Ontario. I know both Kate, Leslie, and Marg. I said both, but there's more than two. Margie through the Life Purpose Mastery Program. And I am currently working on creating a new business, working with both people on the spectrum and neurotypicals so that both sides can learn to communicate together and see each other's side. I should have just done my elevator pitch.
No, that's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good description. Thank you, and thank you for coming today. Anybody else want to have anything to say before we wrap up? Any more feedback for Kate or anything in general? Anybody?
Knowing the group that you all are all in, Kate, I'm curious, what's your human design type?
Can you guess? Do you know about human design?
I know enough to know what I am, but nobody else.
I'm a manifesting generator.
Got it.
With a 3-5 profile. So I'm bumping through life and learning in that way. Yeah. Quick start.
Your authority is?
Emotional authority.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know human design, it's a kind of esoteric but really powerful system that combines using astrological information with chakras, with the I Ching. It's very complex, but it gives information about the basic design of someone's personality and being that I haven't found elsewhere. And I've studied lots of systems, and the program that we're in uses it as kind of the focus for if you're going to build a business, build it on the person and the personality that you are so that it's in alignment with who you are. So I'm a very different profile than Kate, for example, or than Margie, or than Jackie. Jackie's a manifester. So that's a third kind. And so the way I would need to run and build a business is a completely different energy system and a completely different focus than the way Kate would run her business or the way Jackie would run hers. So that, just to fill you in, that's what we're talking about.
It's awesome.
This
Yeah.
group,
You know,
when I first joined this group, Deb and I had a conversation about the Enneagram, and we ended up bringing in someone to talk about the Enneagram, and several of us kind of deep dove that direction for a little while. So this is another layer that we might want to have an expert come in and do a
Well,
chat on.
I would have to do some really good publicity because I actually had someone speak on human design about 2 years ago. And she is a brilliant human design person. And unfortunately, she was a chaotic and confusing speaker.
Mhm.
And nobody,
I know who she is. So
yes,
yes.
nobody had a clue what she was talking about. And everybody was like, what? So, you know what? I'll look and see if I can find someone else who
Actually,
can talk about human design.
I actually think, Leslie, that you and I could do human design for this group. As long-
101.
No, you could do it in a group.
No,
No, I mean,
not
101, the early version for those of us who would be just
Yes,
starting out.
absolutely.
101,
So
yes, of course.
what we would do.
Human design overview.
Okay, so we may or may not, either January or February, Marty and I will do a meeting on human design. And what we'll ask for is if you give us your birth data in advance, day, month, year, time, place, we'll run your chart and give you like a little thumbnail of who you are in the meeting so that you can get some idea, because it's really wonderful, powerful information.
Oh,
And
it's
we'll do a
fun
little
stuff.
PR campaign to
And if
convince
if
people
we
to-
wanted to introduce people to the Enneagram, you know, I'm still
to.
connected to the person who does that here in
That'd be
St.
great.
Pete. So I'm sure he'd be happy to do a monthly thing.
As the unofficial program director, I'm happy to hear our spring filling up. So yes, I love that. Anybody else, anything?
my 15-year-old daughter has friends over frequently, and they were over here Saturday night. They said, will you do readings for us? So I did like some card reading, oracle card readings, and I did their human design, and each one was different. Each teen girl was different. And can you imagine, as a projector, hearing as a 15-year-old that what's correct for you is to wait for the invitation? Like, it's just can be a very powerful thing, even a little bit of information.
I imagine I'm a projector, had I heard that at an early age in my teens, it's conceivable I might not have ended up with Crohn's and dealing with a lot of stress, illness, and other issues as I grew up. So yeah, learning about that one thing about that particular energy way of being has been extraordinarily powerful for me, because it's not the same as what our culture says we're supposed to behave. So
Even just that first step, wake up from the numbness, that resonated with me a lot, you know, because once I started with the Enneagram and, you know, my coach training and and I was like, oh man, I've been doing this all wrong. You know? And I wish I'd known this, you know, 20 years ago. And, you know, I mean, I never really had any regrets because I just barreled forward, right? Lead, follower, get out of the way kind of thing. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. But yeah, you're right. At 15, I don't know how much you'd be open to it.
yeah.
But a little bit of awareness is you know, just a drop, you know, to make you think.
Yeah.
I think 15-year-olds can be pretty introspective and perceptive, given the chance.
Even one was a manifester. I said, she's like, yeah, I manifested a car and I manifested this. And then I said, but here's the thing. I know about your energy as well. And so, talked her through a little bit of that. So yeah, the thing about numbness is that it's really not very numb, is it? It actually takes quite a bit of effort. So it's only kind of an illusion of numbness.
Yeah, well, oh boy, got another 20 minutes?
Yeah, we can have a real conversation about that.
That's a lot of conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if the members would stay on for 5 minutes after we end.
Sure.
I've got a call coming up as well, but I wanted to just chime in also on the human design and what I've gained through the program. So when I first joined the program, still very much suffering with PTSD, and I have been following all kinds of different psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, and really had no progress with getting through my PTSD and changing that that pattern in my brain, even having service dogs to help me cope with my day-to-day living. Human design, because one of the things with PTSD is my ability to make a decision, because everything's fear, 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 and it's not a logical fear. And I no longer had a way to trust myself on how to make a decision to move forward. And really getting in touch to my authority, and I'm so happy it's sacral. So happy it's not emotional authority, but sacral. And just go ahead, Margie.
Nicole, explain what you mean by that authority.
So the sacral authority is this, letting my body give me my answer, not my intellect. And if there is a definite or there is a hesitation, there's something not quite right with either the question or the timing. And so, I mean, that for the first two or 3 months, that's all I was doing was practicing my authority, getting into, and it's like decisions now, no problem. And I am like back to when the PTSD first was on. It's like I felt like I'm a person who loves to learn, and it's like I felt like my brain just couldn't handle learning anything anymore, and it was terrifying. And my memory, I have a more than a photogenic memory. I have auditory. I will remember things word for word. I don't really need to take notes. That's my old self. But when PTSD happened, all of that kind of fell apart for me. And all of a sudden now I'm like, since I've been in this program, I'm able to do my multitasking where I'm listening to the program, I'm researching at the same time, I'm taking it all in. I have my memory back like before. I don't need, it's just, for me, I'm free of PTSD. Like
there are several ways that people make decisions, and one of the things human design teaches you individually is which way are you natively good at making a decision. So the fact, I imagine, Kate, that you know some human design and you can even intuit or have a sense of what people's authority or decision making ability is would probably help you, because I have a different way of making a decision, for example, than Nicole do or than you do. And so you would have to, in helping me, organize or clear out or whatever, you'd have to take into account my decision making ability. So it's really kind of fascinating. I just want to thank you so much. This was wonderful. Really appreciate it. And if anybody wants to contact Kate, her information is in the chat, I believe. Please feel free to contact her.
Yep, or you can email me, kate@katevarness.com.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here, and have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
week.
Thank you, Kate. I'm dropping off. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
And there we are. Now it's just us chickens.
Okay. So,
we stop the recording. Hang on.
We